blinds.
Do you have a 14-year-old son?
Close the blinds.
Hold on, sir.
Close the blinds.
Sir, do you have a 14-year-old son?
Close the blinds. Close the blinds. I'm not going in the house.
Are your
Close the
children
blinds.
okay, ma'am? Are your children okay?
Okay.
Do they look okay, guy? He's asking if my children are okay. Who the is that?
Okay.
What are y'all talking about?
We're gonna leave now.
Give me 1
Why? Because I gotta eat.
One sentence. That's all it took to end a police officer's career. This is an unfortunate incident that we will use as a learning opportunity to do better. No name, no specifics, no mention of what was actually said on that porch. Just a press release, sanitized and vague, released 3 days after the actual event. The event that was already circulating, unedited, on a private citizen's YouTube channel. Picture 2 doors. One is the front door of a house in Suisun City, California. Wood, paint, a welcome mat. The other is the door of a police department's public affairs office. Glass, polished, guarded by a spokesperson trained to say as little as possible. Both doors were knocked on that week in May of 2020.
And is brought to us by Syrah Hawkins' channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. On May 10th, 2020, the Suisun City Police Department received a call from North Bay Medical Center about an individual who had potentially ingested nail polish remover. Officers Tiffany Kanoma and Cody Marler responded to the call and were dispatched to the Suisun City, California home of military veteran Sergeant Syrah Hawkins.
Yeah, sorry. Hello.
Hey. I don't know who that is.
You know who that is?
No.
Who's your girlfriend or your baby mama? Lady right here.
First of all, that's my wife, Marble.
Okay.
Only one of them opened honestly. This is the story of what happens when the second door tries to close on a truth the first door already let out. Before we go deeper into what the documents actually show, make sure you're subscribed to Police Misconduct Case, because we don't just cover the story, we follow the evidence. Start with the call. A hospital reports a possible poisoning, a 3-year-old, nail polish remover, a welfare check request routed through dispatch. On paper, this is routine. 2 officers, a wellness check, a knock on a door. In practice, dispatch sent 2 armed officers to the wrong house, and what followed was recorded in full, uncut, by the resident himself, a 9-year U.S. Army veteran named Sergeant Syrah Hawkins.
Looking for?
102. Can you go with the mother's name?
What's the problem?
So we're here on a welfare check. We have to
Oh,
make sure
hang
she's
on.
okay.
Why?
Because we received a call from North Bay for the incident that occurred earlier.
What incident?
What's your last name?
Copy.
Look right there. Supposed to be an investigator if y'all investigating. Right there. 9 years, U.S. Army. Now what's the problem?
Okay.
Y'all need to tell me what's going on. This is my house.
We told you.
Copy. They're
We're here
advising
for a
that this
welfare
is
check.
not the right address.
Oh, welfare check for what?
No,
Hi, ma'am.
I
What?
got it.
Ma'am?
Y'all violating my rights right now.
Actually, we're not, dude.
Yes, you are, because
No,
you're
we're
not
not.
telling me who that is. I said it to you.
Listen to me, dude. We're not violating your rights.
You are.
How?
Because
Which right?
you-
Which civil right are we violating?
Why are you raising your
We're
voice?
not violating
Why is he raising
anything,
his voice?
okay?
Why is he raising
So
his voice?
we are here on
Are you
a
threatening
welfare
me?
check.
I can go inside my house.
We are here on a welfare check.
The first words out of an officer's mouth to Sergeant Hawkins were not, "We're conducting a welfare check." They were a question about whether the woman standing beside him was his girlfriend or, in the officer's words, his baby mama. She was his wife. That single sentence, delivered before any explanation, before any badge number, before any legal basis was even stated, did more damage to this interaction than any statute ever could. Wrong assumption, wrong tone, wrong address, as it would turn out. 3 strikes before the conversation even had a chance to start.
In the 2013 case of Florida versus Jardines, the Supreme Court noted that, quote, "But when it comes to the Fourth Amendment, the home is first among equals. At the amendment's very core stands the right of a man to retreat into his own home and there be free from unreasonable governmental intrusion. This right would be of little practical value if the state's agents could stand in a home's porch or side garden and trawl for evidence with impunity. The right to retreat would be significantly diminished if the police could enter a man's property to observe his repose from just outside the front window. Nonetheless, under the so-called knock and talk doctrine, officers generally have the authority to enter a home's curtilage to knock on the door and ask questions without a warrant. The court explained in the Jardines case that, quote, "The knocker on the front door is treated as an invitation or license to attempt an entry. This implicit license typically permits the visitor to approach the home by the front path, knock promptly, wait briefly to be received, and then, absent invitation to linger longer, leave. Thus, a police officer not armed with a warrant may approach a home and knock, precisely because that is no more than any private citizen might do. However,
here's the legal architecture underneath this, because it matters. The Fourth Amendment protects not just the inside of a home, but what courts call the curtilage, the porch, the walkway, the space immediately surrounding a residence. The Supreme Court made this explicit in Florida v. Jardines in 2013, describing the home as first among equals under the Fourth Amendment. Officers are generally permitted to approach a front door and knock. This is the so-called knock and talk doctrine, because that's no more than any private citizen, a delivery driver or a neighbor, is already allowed to do.
quote, "To find a visitor knocking on the door is routine, even if sometimes unwelcome. To spot that same visitor exploring the front path with a metal detector or marching his bloodhound into the garden before saying hello and asking permission would inspire most of us to, well, call the police. The scope of a license is limited not only to a particular area, but also to a specific purpose. Applying this standard, lower courts have found certain police behaviors to exceed the scope of the implied license to knock at an individual's door without a warrant. For instance, in the 2022 case of Cupp versus Smith, the Northern District of California found that an officer exceeded the scope of the implied license to knock when he approached the garage area, entered the garage door, spoke with the homeowner's worker, walked through the carport, and took multiple photographs of the garage and surrounding area. Similarly, the Florida First District Court of Appeals held in the 2013 case of Powell versus State that an unconstitutional search occurred when police officers stepped off the front step of a mobile home and looked into a window they could not see through from the front step. The court explained that, quote, "Even when governmental agents are engaging in otherwise lawful knock and talks, they can exceed the scope of a reasonable visit to a front door or porch through physical actions that encroach into areas in which the resident has a reasonable expectation of privacy." But the decision also noted that, quote, "Under certain circumstances, implicit permission may exist to look through an uncurtained window while standing on a front porch momentarily to see whether the resident is approaching the door, assuming no unreasonable means or devices are used." In this situation, while a court would almost certainly conclude that the officers did not violate Sergeant Hawkins'
But that license has limits. It does not permit officers to linger, to peer through windows they otherwise could not see through, or to treat a doorstep like an open investigation. Lower courts have repeatedly found violations when officers stepped past that invisible line. Cases like Cupp v. Smith in 2022, where an officer who wandered into a garage and photographed the area was found to have exceeded the scope of implied permission. None of that legal nuance was on Officer Marlar's mind on that porch. What was on his mind came out of his mouth instead, and it wasn't law. It was disrespect. This is the moral center of this story, and we're going to say it plainly because it's going to come up again. An officer's job is to de-escalate, not detonate. Say that phrase again, because you'll hear it 3 times before this is over. An officer's job is to de-escalate, not detonate.
Right there.
Okay,
Your wife.
I'm going to talk to you. First of all, you came to my house and said, "Is that my girlfriend or my baby mama?" That's my wife. So
Okay.
that's disrespectful starting off.
All right, sir. So,
That was disrespectful starting off. And,
Okay,
and then
I
he's raising his
understand.
voice at me.
okay, I understand.
So now I can raise my
So
voice,
look-
right?
No, you can eat it.
What's his problem?
Okay.
Nah, I need your badge numbers. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'll
I'm
give
sorry.
you my badge number. But so the reason we're here is to
Now
make
you're
sure
telling me the
somebody
reason
is
after you
okay.
told me to eat it.
Sir,
So you told me to eat it, right?
that
Marlar?
I messed up. I apologize.
Now that you on film, you messed up.
No,
So
you
you,
can
you
record.
haven't violated any of my
No.
rights.
No,
the
sir.
first thing you said to me coming here was,
So,
is
sir.
that my baby mom or my girlfriend?
Sir,
Then he started raising his voice at me.
from North Bay.
Pause. I need your name and your badge number.
Officer Conma, 107.
Thank you. I need your name and your badge
Officer
number.
Marler 102.
And she's at my window. I told you not to go to my window. Close the blinds.
Do you have a 14-year-old son?
Close the blinds.
Hold on, sir.
Close the blinds.
Sir, do you have a 14-year-old son?
Close the blinds. Close the blinds. I'm not going in the house.
Are your
Close the
children
blinds.
okay, ma'am? Are your children okay?
Okay.
Do they look okay, guy? He's asking if my children are
North?
okay. Who the is that?
Okay.
What are y'all talking about?
We're going to leave now.
Give me 1
Why? Because
second.
I gotta eat. That's why you leaving now?
We're going to leave now. I don't know who a 14
My family was here all day. We had a good day. You're here telling me to eat it.
kid is. I don't know who the 14-year-old is.
Okay.
I don't either. I told you I did 9 years in the military.
Okay, we
You told me to
appreciate
eat it. So
Okay,
thank
give
you
me a
for telling
second.
me to eat it.
Please.
After I served
Walk
you
away.
for 9 years, you. How about
Marler.
you get the fuck off
I
my
served as
property?
well.
Marler.
I don't give. You are probably a piece. If you serve and you telling
Okay.
people to eat, you probably was a piece.
All right.
You can get out of here. That's what you can do, Marler. You.
Okay. Let me explain, because we may
You
have
said
been.
you told me to eat it.
Can I explain to you?
Sergeant Hawkins, understandably, escalated. He raised his voice. He refused to identify himself immediately. He accused the officers of violating his rights without being able to name which right. None of that is a crime. The First Amendment, as the Supreme Court held in the 1987 case City of Houston v. Hill, protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers. A citizen yelling at an officer, even using profanity, is not, by itself, unlawful.
23, which details standards of conduct for officers in the department, lists discourteous, disrespectful, or discriminatory treatment of any member of the public, the use of obscene, indecent, profane, or derogatory language while on duty or in uniform, and any other conduct which any member knows or reasonably should know is unbecoming a member of this department or tends to reflect unfavorably upon this department or its members as potential causes for disciplinary action. It should also be noted that, as we have discussed many times on ATA, Sergeant Hawkins was well within his rights to express his displeasure with Officer Marler's conduct through the use of profanities and insults. And as the Supreme Court explained in the 1987 case of City of Houston versus Hill, quote, "The First Amendment protects a significant amount of verbal criticism and challenge directed at police officers."
Did you go to North Bay today?
What is that? Get in the house. What are y'all talking about? Nobody knows what y'all are talking about.
Well, you're not letting me explain.
You never explained. You started asking questions. He said, is that my girlfriend or my baby mama?
Okay, I apologize for that. Okay, I'm here to clarify. So it may have been a miscommunication between North Bay and our dispatch. So we got a call that we needed. Okay, a 3-year-old was brought into the hospital because she ingested nail polish remover. Okay?
We don't know anything about
Okay.
any of that.
And that is absolutely fine. So this
I
just got a
know,
little out of hand.
But you don't come to somebody's house and say, is that your baby mama or your girlfriend? You
Right,
know what?
and I completely understand
You're
that.
supposed to be
It was
professional.
I'm trying my best to be
And if
professional.
you're doing fine. But that
Okay.
guy, I don't know what side of the bed he woke up on.
Had
Put
him
yourself
sent
in
away.
my shoes. 2 cops knock on your door. Boom, boom, boom. I'm in there having a good time with my wife
Okay.
of 5 years,
They are beautiful.
who I have now
Okay.
scared.
Okay.
You probably scared them. They don't know officer friendly yet. You knocking on my window.
All right.
What is not protected, what is instead a direct violation of internal department policy, is an officer responding to that anger with profanity and insult of his own. And that's exactly what the Bodycam audio captured. After Sergeant Hawkins raised his voice, Officer Marlar directed a vulgar insult back at him. Not de-escalation, detonation. Suisun City Police Department's own Policy 323 explicitly lists discourteous, disrespectful, or discriminatory treatment of any member of the public, and the use of obscene, indecent, profane, or derogatory language while on duty as grounds for discipline. This wasn't an ambiguous gray area. This was an officer violating his own department's written standards on his own recorded audio in real time.
defined in the 1976 case of Katie versus Dombrowski as police duties that are, quote, totally divorced from the detection, investigation, or acquisition of evidence relating to the violation of a criminal statute. Although the Katie decision involved a vehicle and did not apply to homes, after it was published, many lower courts interpreted the holding as violating the Fourth Amendment.
So
Y'all want me to, like, quote what statute you guys are violating? I'm not one of those people, but I'm pretty sure I can go on Google and see if
we
this
have
is
every
legal
right
what
to
you
be here
did.
to check on somebody, and you have the right to Google us and make sure.
So you have the right to be here and check on somebody, right?
Yes.
Did I have to come out my door?
You did not. We needed to come
Exactly.
check on the female. Okay, I'm
And I
leaving
told
now,
you-
sir.
I gave you an instruction.
Okay.
To bring on my window, but you did.
Have a good night, sir.
Shortly after Officer Konoma left Sergeant Hawkins' home, Officer Marler returned, knocked on the door, and apologized for his prior behavior. However, Sergeant Hawkins was not appeased, and he posted the footage he recorded of the interaction on his YouTube channel. In response to public outcry, the department issued a public statement on May 13, 2020 that read, quote, over the weekend, one of our Suisun City police officers was involved in an unfortunate interaction with a resident while responding to a call for service. During that incident, the officer involved used language that was not appropriate and not within the standards of the Suisun City Police Department. The City of Suisun City and the Suisun City Police Department want to assure our residents that this type of behavior is not tolerated by any measure. The statement also quoted Chief Aaron Roth as saying, quote, this is an unfortunate incident that we will use as a learning opportunity to do better as we continue to work with our community to make Suisun City a better place for everyone. On behalf of the Suisun City Police Department, I would like to publicly apologize to the residents involved in this incident and to the entire community. As a result of the incident, Officer Marler was released from his position at the department, but it's unclear whether he was terminated or if he was allowed to resign.
Now here's the ticking clock, because underneath all of this is a question nobody in that press release wanted to answer. Somewhere in that same neighborhood, at that exact moment, was there still a 3-year-old who had ingested nail polish remover at an address these officers had not yet found? Every minute spent on a shouting match over a misidentified relationship was a minute not spent locating a possible medical emergency. What if the wrong house hadn't been the only mistake that night? What if the real emergency was still unfolding somewhere else on the map, while 2 adults argued about tone on a porch that had nothing to do with it?
Overall, Officer Marler gets an F for making disrespectful assumptions about Sergeant Hawkins' relationship with his wife, using profane and vulgar language towards a citizen, and displaying a complete lack of professionalism throughout the encounter. While Officer Marler did eventually apologize, his conduct completely derailed the interaction from the beginning and prevented the mistaken address from being quickly identified. Instead of working to locate the correct address for the individual who may have ingested nail polish remover, the officers were required to spend valuable time resolving Sergeant Hawkins' well-warranted complaints. In situations involving medical emergencies, this sort of delay could be fatal, and it easily could have been avoided here if Officer Marler had simply behaved professionally. Officer Konoma gets a B, because although there is certainly room for improvement in the way she and Officer Marler initiated this interaction, she maintained a professional demeanor throughout the interaction, attempted to de-escalate the situation, and remained calm while both Officer Marler and Sergeant Hawkins lost their tempers. That being said, it certainly would have been helpful if Officer Konoma had explained the reason they were knocking as soon as Sergeant Hawkins opened the door, instead of immediately interrogating him, which made him defensive from the start. I hope that Officer Konoma learns from this encounter and improves her questioning techniques for future welfare checks and other similar situations. Sergeant Hawkins also gets a B, because while his angry response to Officer Marler's conduct escalated the situation and delayed the resolution of the interaction, his outrage was completely understandable, and his expressions of anger were protected by the First Amendment. As Sergeant Hawkins pointed out, he was not the one wearing a uniform, and I cannot fault him for making a stand against rude and insulting conduct from a police officer. This interaction illustrates the essential role officers play in setting the tone of an encounter, and had Officer Marler not made disrespectful statements from the beginning of the interaction, it likely would have been resolved quickly and without incident.
That's not hyperbole. It's a direct consequence of the interaction as documented. The officers eventually clarified, nearly 10 minutes in, that they'd been misdirected by dispatch, that the actual incident involved a different address entirely. 10 minutes. 10 minutes that could have been spent correcting the address instead of correcting each other's tone.
The second officer on scene, Officer Konoma,
behaved differently, and the record should say so plainly, because forensic fairness means crediting what was done right as much as what was done wrong. She remained composed. She attempted, repeatedly, to redirect the conversation toward clarification rather than confrontation. She provided her name and badge number without hesitation. Her failure was one of sequencing, not character. She let the interrogation-style questions come first, before the explanation, which primed Sergeant Hawkins for defensiveness he never needed to feel. A procedural misstep, not a moral one. Officer Marlar's failure was different in kind. It wasn't sequencing, it was conduct. And conduct is what gets you removed. Which brings us to the official version of events. The version released by the department 3 days later, engineered by a press office, rather than described by an eyewitness. The officer involved used language that was not appropriate and not within the standards of the Suisun City Police Department. That's the entire public description of what happened. No mention of the disrespectful remark about a baby mama. No mention of the vulgar insult that directly triggered the escalation. No timeline. No acknowledgement that officers had been sent to the wrong address in the first place. Just a carefully bloodless phrase. Language that was not appropriate. Standing in for a documented violation of the department's own conduct policy.